Tell me, is .NET MAUI Preview 14 out yet? It's not? Okay, then I still have time to do a .NET MAUI Preview 13 update. Alright, so I'm a little bit late this time with the Preview 13 update video for you, but there is still one thing that I wanted to point out, so I'm just going to record it anyway. Preview 14 is already around the corner, and is that going to be a release candidate, yes or no? Who knows? We'll find out. But here we have Preview 13 first, and David, of course, wrote a very cool blog post about it, so go check that one out. You probably have done that already, but if you haven't, I'll put the link down in the video description below, so go find that. What is a really nice addition in this preview is the label.formatted text. So what you can see here, this really mimics like the font window of Windows, and this is just one big label control, so that is really cool. And you can have all this different formatting in one label with all the spans. You can see the actual source for this screen right here. So you can see you can have all these spans with different formatting right here, which is really cool, which is a big new addition in Preview 13. So go check that out. Now, additional highlighting, we're continuously, well, I'm saying we're, but actually, the one doing this is David Bridge on the documentation team, who is doing a really great job with pushing out all the documentation. So there's continually updates on that as well. You can just go to docs.microsoft.com /.net/MAUI, and you can see this is growing and growing. There's more coming in here, and don't be fooled with just this landing page. There is even more here on the left that you can find with all the options that you have here. So definitely go check that out. But you know, it's all Xamarin Forms stuff. It's all being ported. So if you can't find something yet, just go over to the Xamarin Forms documentation or find something with Xamarin Forms, and chances are that it will work almost exactly the same in .NET MAUI. So be sure to check that out. Now, the same goes for documentation for building Blazor hybrid apps. There is much more content coming for Blazor hybrid apps on this channel, so if that's something that you want to see, be sure to be subscribed, to like this video, but also to stay tuned for the content about that. I'm actually planning to do a full course on Blazor hybrid apps, .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid apps, so be sure to check that out. Now, of course, there's other things that have been implemented, the label formatted text, I said that, list view, more performance, I'll get to that in a little bit, and other stuff as well. You can find all the details in the release notes and in the migration guide. Well, the migration guide is something that I'll be talking about in a little bit as well, so be sure to stay tuned. And then the rest of the blog post is kind of like about bootstrapping the .NET MAUI focus on MauiProgram. So this just goes into detail on what the MauiProgram does. Actually, James Montemagno has a really great video, also his update for Preview 13 video. It should pop up on your screen right now, or you can find it down below in the video description. So go check that out. He goes into detail over like all the MauiProgram stuff. I'm planning to do a separate video for that because there's a lot of ground to cover with the MauiProgram and how to initialize your application with that. So is that something that you want to see, then please let me know down in the comments so I can prioritize that. So it goes over and over and over all these things like how do you wire up, configure effects, configure essentials, configure fonts, all these things that you can now fluently use to initialize kind of like your app shell. Now, dependency injection, I've already made videos about that as well. So, you know, that's still working. But what's kind of interesting is, if we scroll down a little bit here, is remove hosting and disable logging, which is in an attempt to make the startup time, especially for .NET MAUI apps, faster. We're still, you know, heavily focused on that. And we identified that Microsoft.extensions.hosting wasn't needed in a .NET MAUI app, which was, you know, primarily used for the ASP.NET applications, those type of applications. And you can still do all the things. You still have the dependency injection, all the things that I've shown in the video, in videos. You can still do that. But we could remove this and not lose anything, basically. But we would improve the Android app startup time with approximately 13% on a blank application. So that is really amazing. We're going above and beyond to improve that startup time and the overall performance, of course. Now, another thing is to disable the logging. Now, again, this doesn't mean that you cannot use logging. You definitely can. But there was some logging enabled by default. Which was, again, heavily targeted primarily against like servers workers and that kind of stuff. So where the performance hit is you know, not maybe that important as with cross-platform apps. So we disabled the login and we trimmed it down to a minimum, and also that has gained us a huge performance boost there. So that is cool. Get started today. So we now are on Visual Studio 17.2 Preview 1. Which will have Preview 13 attached to it of .NET MAUI, so that's going to be really great. And it all kinds of goes hand in hand by now. So Preview 14 is around the corner, and that will probably come together with Visual Studio 17.2 Preview 2. As always, I'm not sure if it's actually mentioned here, but we have been recommending to kind of like remove everything from Visual Studio and install the whole thing again, just to make sure that everything is cleared out. There is actually, I'm going to hop over to the wiki right now. There is some instructions to install the workloads and make that better. That is going to be better whenever it all goes GA, I promise you. But for now, we're kind of like in this preview dance with all the previews that have to come out together and have to coordinate. Now, I told you the migration is going to be important. So actually, let me hop over to Visual Studio first and let me show you what happens, because this is an older template, because the templates is, they're now living in the .NET MAUI repository, which is really cool, I think, because now we can also kind of like improve on the templates there, which is something that we couldn't do before. So now the templates are open source as well. But what's happening as we progress through the previews, the templates are also getting updates, and the code base is also getting updates. And because it's previews, we're not, spending too much time making it all backwards compatible, basically. So what's happening now, if you've created a application earlier with templates that are older and depending on functionality that was in an older preview, and now we change something which is a breaking change, then you might run into issues. So if I have this older template right here and I just say, hey, run this on my Windows machine, I think this also happened on other projects, you would get suddenly an error while nothing much has changed, right? And you would get this kind of like cryptic error which says, registration of the app failed, cannot install or update package because the splash screen image cannot be located. Verify that the package contains the image, la 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 la. Now, this is very cryptic, and it doesn't really tell you that this is actually about the Windows target, but it is. So if you run into this error, then what you want to do is go to Platforms, Windows, and go into the package.appx manifest. So I'm going to right click, open with, and say XML text editor. And you will see that basically all image references will have this assets prefix on it. It will go look into the assets folder, which is something that is necessary for Windows apps. But you need to remove all these assets right here. So assets, assets, assets. Let's remove all of them, be gone, and then it should be working again. So whenever we do this, it should start working again. This is live coding. Hopefully it works. So this has to do with a change in like the area where we resize all the images for you, where we do all those things. And we made it easier for you to work with that assets folder. Now, here is something else that's going wrong. So preview bits. I even have more internal preview bits, so that's probably why this is going wrong. But it started to run a little bit further, right? We got past the splash screen issue, and there was changes in like how we resized all the images and where we would put that in the assets folder, basically making it easier for you to work with. That also means there's now a little bit of redundant code in your app.xaml if you have this kind of like, let me see if I can remove all of this clutter here. You can remove this reference right here. So XMLNS Windows, which is the namespace for all of our Windows specific stuff, and then say application.image directory assets. It doesn't hurt if it's here, but we don't need it anymore as well. So let's just remove that. And now we've updated our old project template to use and to work with the latest bits. So that will make your project basically work again, which is really great. But what is more important, let's go back to the browser, is that this is all documented here on github.com/.net/maui/wiki. So on the wiki, here on the right, you can find like migrating from 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and to preview 13, where this is all documented. So remove assets from Windows image paths. So here, we can see these lines. You have to remove them. Also, what we did is the grid layout. I think we were thinking about renaming the grid to grid layout. We're not doing that anymore. It's just going to be grid, right? So that's going to be the thing. What we also added is raw assets. So besides like fonts and images, we now also have raw assets. So if you want to use a SQLite database that's already pre-built, coincidentally, I made a video about that. So go check that out in the corner of your screen right now. If you want to provide that DB file in there, you can just put it in the raw assets folder right now, and it will be packaged up with your application. And you can just access it through .NET MAUI Essentials with a couple of lines of code. So that is really, really nice as well. You will see in the CS proj that there is a little line for that to make that all happen. You can influence that behavior if that's what you want, but typically you don't need to touch that. Now, what's more, even for like .NET MAUI Essentials, what we did is you can remove even more code. So I'm not going to go over this in entire details, but you can remove all of this boilerplate code, basically. We don't need that anymore. We solved that for you. You can just remove that. So also for Windows, the app example CS, you can make that more compact, more readable. You can remove all that stuff. But the thing that's important here that I want you to know is that there is a whole lot of information in this wiki. And of course, it will be more discoverable. In fact, we don't want to have this migration from preview to preview anymore at some point because, we won't have those previews anymore. But there's a lot of valuable information here right now. Also references to all the blogs that I've been talking about. And what was the other thing that I was going to kind of talk about? Oh, right. So the development, there's also a development something here. Which is it? What is it? I think it's somewhere under installing .NET 6, contributing, developing. Oh, right, and that links to development. So this is not actually in the wiki, but you can find the link there. And here's the development guide. This is basically the guide where you can go through all the workloads and install all the things. Also, if you want to start contributing to .NET MAUI, which is definitely a good time to do right now. It's all explained here. I will just put the link down in the video description, so don't worry about finding it. And here is the instructions, like install the latest .NET 6, clear your NuGet cache, because that's kind of like important. There's where a lot of people get screwed up because the NuGet feeds are like, a little bit different. And then install the .NET MAUI workload. And there is like a script for that right now, so we're making that very, easy-ish for you at this point to do that. Also this, hopefully we can make this easier for you to contribute, but right now it's all previews in Visual Studio, previews of .NET MAUI, previews of all the things. So we're still shaping this up as well. I hope that kind of like is an update for Preview 13. It's out for a little while now, so maybe you figured all of this out already, but I hope there's still some value in like where to find migration guides, how to get the information to start developing with .NET MAUI for together with us, basically together with the .NET MAUI team. And now you don't have to wait that long for the Preview 14 video to come out, and I'll promise that I'll make that sooner than this one right after the release of Preview 14. So if this is a video you liked, then please click the like button, because that is something that will tell YouTube that this is a video that you loved, and it will spread to even more people, and the channel can grow, and I can even make more amazing content. So be sure to check that. Be sure to see if you click that subscribe button so that the content will come to your feed automatically. Other than that, maybe you want to check out a little bit more about .NET MAUI, and you can do so with this playlist right here, which tells you all about .NET MAUI development. So there's all the basics for you right there. Maybe you want to check out this video, which is very relevant to whatever you're watching and into right now. And be sure to click this button to see if you're subscribed already. See you next time.